What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's Seven Figures Club podcast. Leo Cannell here, your host. In today's episode, my entrepreneurial friends, we're going to be talking about Fund Me Please. And Fund Me Please is, there's a little story behind that. We're also going to talk about what it takes to build a seven figures empire and join the Seven Figures Club. Well, it takes capital, my friends. It takes funding and financing. We're going to take a look at how Under Armour went from $40,000 in revolving credit card debt to a multi-billion-dollar status evaluation, how not once but three times my funding formula has helped to build multiple seven-figure enterprises, and how you can grab funding at 0% interest to build your own empire, or at least get the information you need to have a chance to do just that. So let's go! There are over 32 million businesses in the U.S., and over 90% of them will never break seven figures in annual sales. So how do we as entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs break into that seven figures club? This podcast will relentlessly share the secrets, strategies, and tactics I've used to create three multi-seven figures businesses and bring in even more successful entrepreneurs than me to share their inspirational stories and tactics to success. You can create your dream business and life right now. So buckle up and let's go. All right. Hope you guys are having an amazing holiday season. Hopefully this podcast comes out, somewhere in the middle of the holiday season, or maybe you're already looking forward to making 2021 your breakthrough year, and hopefully you finished 2020 with a whole bunch of momentum and strength and power. So a few years ago, in fact, it was, like 3-4 years, I think it was about 4 years ago. 4 years ago, my company, we had an event in the Dominican Republic, and it was an event of entrepreneurs who were building online businesses, and they were learning to do online marketing and kind of digital type ad agencies and that type of thing. And so the organization putting it on had invited me to go there and speak to their group. And there was, we're all from the U.S. and flying to the Dominican Republic. Beautiful place there in the Caribbean. I love the Caribbean. So any excuse I can find to go over there is one I'll take. I remember the week before, I was trying to talk these Dominican Republic scuba diving places into taking me out, even though I wasn't certified. And they're like, hell no, we're not taking you out. You got to get certified. And I was super disappointed because I'd been to Fiji and Tonga and Cozumel by Cancun. And I'd always been able to talk the local scuba shops into taking me out because I knew how to scuba dive. I just wasn't certified. But could see it wasn't going to work this time, so I said, all right, fine, I'm going to get certified. So I went and got certified real quick so that I could go scuba diving in the Dominican Republic. And then it was funny, my friend who came with me, he forgot his certification ID thing, which was hilarious. And so we're sitting there, and they have to look it up on all these online sites, and finally they find him, and he just barely makes it onto the boat before we go out to go scuba diving. But at this event, I'm up there speaking, and for whatever reason, I just start screaming, "Fund me, fund me!" And it was like, hey, if you want to build your own dream business, your own seven figures empire, just scream, "Fund me!" And so I started doing that. It was funny. People started mirroring it back and screaming, "Yeah, fund me! That'd be cool." I mean, it's it starts with an F, so sometimes it can sound like something else, but it was Fund Me, and it was a fun little message. And the more that I've been involved in entrepreneurship and seen businesses succeed at high levels, and business owners and entrepreneurs have the chance to build something special, it just becomes so clear to me how important having access to money, access to funding and capital is. And we all have this idea that we're going to be Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey and these entrepreneurs, Steve Jobs, who basically went out and they got venture capital. They got people to put up millions of dollars in groups and organizations. And this happens. It happens all the time, but it happens to maybe 1, at most 2% of businesses. There's over 30 million businesses in this country, and a very, very small percentage of them actually ever qualify for venture capital funding. It just doesn't happen. Like, you have to have amazing traction, really great technology, and a scalable type of business that could just, go across the globe to justify most venture capital and private equity investment. And so for the rest of us, for the other 97, 98%, where are we going to find funding to have a chance to build and grow our dream business? And as I looked back at these, these stories, and it was about a decade ago before I got into the business funding space, and I was trying to research this and figure out, where do people get the funding to grow these businesses? And I went on this journey. All right, I'm going to learn about business credit. I'm going to learn about personal credit. I'm going to learn about what it takes to get a loan at a bank. Started applying at all the banks to get an SBA startup loan. And boy, that wasn't happening, right? And it still does not happen. It's very, very rare today to qualify for a startup SBA loan. Maybe 3, 4, 5% of new businesses do. So literally like the 95% of new businesses, and there's 500,000 of them started each month in this country, they have no access to capital. That they're begging friends and family to give up their hard-earned cash to back their dreams, and that's a tough way to make a go of it. And as I was going through, different entrepreneurs who hit it big, I came across a fascinating story about an entrepreneur named Kevin Plank. And Kevin Plank is the founder of Under Armour, who, Under Armour is I believe they're second or third. They were definitely second. They might have dropped a third in terms of sports apparel and sporting goods type companies out there. Nike, of course, is number one. They dominate athletic shoes and sports apparel, and they've got a fascinating funding story themselves. But Under Armour and their founder, Kevin Plank, he was a walk-on college football player, pretty good athlete, University of Maryland, and this is like in the 80s, 90s. And these players are just dripping with sweat in these cotton shirts that hold all that moisture in. And he's like, there's got to be a better, material that we can use to make our athletic wear and our sporting, apparel. And so he starts to figure out, well, what am I going to do? How can I figure this out? And he starts, he's an entrepreneur at heart. He sells roses for Valentine's Day. He still sells T-shirts at concerts. This is an entrepreneur at heart, always making things happen. And so he starts to understand personal credit, and he's able to get 5 revolving credit card type accounts with 5 different lenders totaling $40,000. He's in his young 22, 23-year-old is where he's at in terms of age, and he's able to build this credit up, get access to money, and there's no country on earth better at allowing you to do this than the United States. So thank goodness we all live in the United States. A lot of us that are listening to this podcast have that opportunity. If you're not here, do everything possible to get here, because access to credit and capital is by far superior in the U.S. compared to any other place in the world, and that's why we have so many entrepreneurs. So Kevin does this research. He starts figuring it out. He gets access to $40,000, and then he starts, I want to say it's in his grandma's basement, that he starts to work on this business, and he spends the money, invests it to build out this special material, kind of this silky, light, doesn't hold moisture material that we all take for granted now with shirts, and especially workout shirts when you're going to go for a run and stuff. And it's slow. He's not getting a lot of sales, and finally, after a year, he has a massive breakthrough, and Georgia Tech University, I want to say Georgia State University, ends up making a big investment, and they love his material, and so they invest and they buy a bunch of the shirts and really just sports apparel for football players. And then it starts to expand from there, and all of a sudden he goes from college to the NFL to high school, and this thing just takes off. And then eventually now he can qualify and get that big venture capital money that he needs to take this thing to the next level. But he never gets to that point without accessing his own capital via his own credit profile first. And so that's kind of the moral of this story. To get capital in this country, 95% of new businesses are going to have to do it through their own credit, their own ability to qualify for money. And so that's what Kevin Plank did. Nike has a similar story. Phil Knight built relationships up with multiple banks and lenders before they ever got any type of venture capital funding. And so same thing with Google. Google had to get started somewhere. They needed all these different servers to hold memories and hard drives to build Google up. And they got some loans and no collateral type revolving credit accounts that we get for entrepreneurs every single day at our company, and they were able to take off, right? And so as I'm going through this a decade ago, I'm starting to see patterns here, and I'm like, yeah, there's always a solution here. Even if you don't have great credit, you can team up with a family member or friend who can be a credit partner, who can have a place in your business, and you can compensate them for helping you get it off the ground. And sometimes that's a lot easier than asking, mom, dad, Uncle Bob to put up money when they can be a credit partner and help you qualify for money. Now, you got to be responsible. There's risk with their credit, but the point is there's always a solution, and any serious entrepreneur will always be able to find that money, and that's how you do it. And from my own personal experience, I remember I jumped through some hoops to start my first business. It was a mortgage, residential brokerage that I started when I was 25. That was like 15 years ago. And to start it, I'm doing financial jiu-jitsu as well, trying to figure out, well, how am I going to get this started? And so what I thought was, because I'd bought this, my wife and I had bought this nice property, we'd fixed it up, and it was worth a lot more because we bought it in foreclosure and put new everything into it. So we had a bunch of equity in the property. And so I'm like, I'll get a home equity line of credit. We use that home equity line of credit to pay to start the business. And okay, it's a great idea. So we get the home equity line of credit lined up. And then at the last second, they're like, yeah, we're going to just make you pay off all of your debt except for your mortgage. I'm like, wait, what? So I get the home equity line of credit. They pay all my debt off, including my 2 car loans. I'm like, well, shit, now how am I going to start this business? How am I going to get it off the ground? And then I started thinking, wait a second. They just paid off my 2 cars that are pretty new and good condition. I'll just go to my credit union and now cash out, get loans against those 2 cars and use that cash to start the business. And that's what I did. And I got about $35,000, $40,000 together. And we were able to launch that business in our first full calendar year. I think we did 1.5 million in sales, and I'd never been like a quote unquote. I mean, I'd started a painting business. I'd been kind of a self-employed, worked for myself, power of one solopreneur for the first 2-3 years of my career, and then that was really my first foray into my own business. And it was amazing. It was amazing to see it grow so fast from zero to, $2.5 million within our first 24 months, and to see that growth. And then the market changed, and the real estate market tanked, and we ended up closing that business up because real estate was just dead for a while there. And then now I'm trying to, all right, well, how am I going to get my next business started? And so, would find a little bit of capital here and there, worked on business credit, personal credit, and then to start my next business, basically started to put together this funding formula where we could get multiple revolving credit accounts, 0% interest, basically like a line of credit. You only pay on what you use and the money's available, and it's perfect when you're starting a new business because you're not always certain how much money you're going to need. You're not certain what opportunities will come up where you'll need access to capital fast. And so for this next business, got about $65,000 in revolving credit, 0% interest, and launched that business. We started out in my kitchen, started to grow fast, moved into a tiny little retail space, 1,000 square feet right by a grocery store. We outgrew that in about 3 months, moved into like a 4,000 square foot office, and then just kept growing and growing and growing, and paid off pretty much all of that debt within the first year of launching that business, so never really paid a dime of interest on it. And that business grew from zero to millions of dollars within 18 months. And would it have happened without access to the capital? Not a chance. I mean, hell, we were using that capital to pay our mortgage payments for the first couple months till we started to make some money in the business. But it gives you a runway. It takes that immediate financial pressure off of you, knowing you've got access to some money, you've got some time to build the business up. I mean, is there a lot of pressure there? Hell yeah, there's a lot of pressure. You've got to perform. You've got to focus on sales, and that's the thing that most new entrepreneurs fail to do, is focus on generating the sales, creating a foundation where they can market and grow that business. But if you don't have access to the money and the capital, like it's not going to happen, right? And then in this my latest business, 7 Figures Funding, same thing. Started off with about $60,000, revolving credit at 0% interest, and paid most of it off that in the first year. Never paid a dime of interest. And then the other thing that I found is, I could just grab another 0% account to invest in some more growth. We had some software we needed to build out that was expensive. And so I moved over about $15,000 to another 0% account for the second year. And really, without paying any interest, I've been able to build this multi-7 figures business in which we help entrepreneurs. Just like I needed help a decade ago getting funding for my own business and learning how to find solutions there. And that's exactly what we do for business owners, every single day, and fund millions of dollars, thousands of business owners, and 70-80% of them are new. And so if you don't have a funding and a finance strategy and a funding advocate, if you will, on your side helping you to grow your business, then it's going to be really difficult to have the opportunity to create your business. You're going to be stuck underneath kind of a ceiling where you're going to bump your head and you won't be able to grow. And I see it all the time where I'll talk to someone and they'll be like, no, I don't need funding. And I'll be like, really? Tell me about your business. Oh, yeah, we do about $300,000 a year in sales. I make about $75,000 profit, and I've been doing that for a decade. I'm like, cool. So what would it take to grow to $1 million a year in sales? Oh, I don't want to do that. I mean, I'd have to hire more people. I'd have to spend more in marketing. I'd have to get this piece of equipment. And I'm like, well, why don't you do that? And every single time the answer comes down to one thing: I don't have the funds to do it. You're damn right you don't. That's because you don't have a funding plan. You don't have a funding advocate, and you don't understand how credit and things work. And the problem is we've got guys like Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman who are, very good consumer finance advisors, and yet they're not good entrepreneur advisors, because there's two kinds of debt in this country, in the world. There's personal debt that you use for personal reasons, to get that big house, to buy that expensive car, to go on that nice vacation, to buy those expensive clothes that you think you absolutely need, but you don't. And all of those investments don't make you money. But when you take out funds, debt for a business that you can make 200, 300, 400% on, like that's the magic. It's all in generating a return on the money. You take out $50,000. Can you turn that into a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year business, or even $1 million in the first year, as I've been fortunate to do? That's why that's good debt. And that's why the rich get richer and the majority of the population don't, because they understand that debt is a tool to create thriving cash flow businesses that can make them a bunch of money. That's why you could take all the wealth away from Elon Musk and he would find a way to get capital, to get some financing somewhere, and he'd build another multi-billion-dollar business, because he understands that capital is the fuel that creates a SpaceX or a Tesla. And as I was driving in this morning through the snow in my Tesla, sliding around a little bit, by the way, I was just reminded of how important capital and funding are to creating your dream business. So if you don't have a funding plan, if you need an advocate on credit and finance, which, like, that's how we do it, right? Like, I don't try to figure out Facebook marketing. Hell no. I'm going to bring in my awesome team, Mike and Ben. They're going to run my Facebook campaigns, and they're great at doing it. And I'm going to they're my marketing Facebook advocates, right? They know what's going on, and they're the tool, the team that I need there. I bring out my guy in for my developing on my software. We've got our sales team. We've got people that are really good at what they do, and that's what you do. You don't try and figure everything out yourself. You'll never be able to build a business. You don't have enough time in the day to do that as an entrepreneur. And so if you're in a position where you want to look at, well, what financing options do I have? Well, we have an entire marketplace at Seven Figures Funding. You can go to sevenfigures.com or sevenfiguresfunding.com. Tell them that you heard about this on the podcast, and we've got a few free gifts and discounts for you, as well as your free funding pre-approval. But guys, gals, entrepreneurial friends, have a funding plan, get a funding advocate. If you do that, you can join the Seven Figures Club. You have a chance. I'm telling you, there's a chance when you have the right funding plan. There's a reason that only 10% of businesses ever break $1 million a year in sales. It's because they've got funding, and the rest generally do not. So get yourself funded. Fund me, they say. Have an amazing day, and make 2021 your breakthrough year by having access to the funding that you need. Are you looking for more seven-figure secrets, content, or even how you can launch your own recession-proof business? Then check out sevenfigures.com. That's the digit 7, Figures.com, where we share more videos, stories, strategies, funding solutions, entrepreneurial education, and even the secret business type that's recession-proof. Thank you for listening, and if you're finding value in our podcast, please give us a 5-star and invite others to join the club.